on record that root beer is not better than real beer.
Dude.
Yeah, I don't drink that. That's why. All right. So anyway, guys, welcome back to Faithful Amphibian. We're just on a roll today. This is our third interview, and we're here with Mike Flynn,
Yep.
also known as Michael Flynn. That's his birth name,
Yeah.
I think.
One,
oh yeah,
two.
Mike's mic check. If you guys have heard him in the background. So, Mike, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What are you doing? What's your current state in life?
Well, I'm from Massachusetts area in general. I've moved around from Attleboro, Quincy, Boston, and now I'm residing in New Bedford. I currently attend Bristol Community College with the hopes of transferring to UMass Dartmouth and getting a history degree in the process. I'm a big nerd when it comes to history. If anyone's talked to me, I'll go off. Currently, I'm looking to. I've applied to a tutoring job. I'm helping people, some of my friends, with their faith life, and on the side, I enjoy writing a lot about whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Have you posted any of your writings, or is it just kind of like personal stuff?
I keep it close to my chest, but I hope
Okay.
to, get things
All
out
right.
there one day.
If you ever canonize, I'll make sure that they're posted as memoirs.
Of course, I'll send them all to you in a private email.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Open in case of canonization.
yeah, there you go. Just touching the pages will like heal me or something.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So I met Mike, I guess a year ago when you were confirmed through RCIA, which was awesome. I didn't really know you. I kind of knew Dan's friend Bob, who was there. So we didn't really connect. But then like you just came on a retreat with us 2 weeks ago. Or was this last weekend?
Last week, I
Oh my
think,
gosh, time flies. And this has been a long week. But Mike gave an awesome talk about prayer and
Discernment, yeah.
Yes, and it was awesome. So I thought, he has to be on the podcast. Plus, he's a cool guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. So we're gonna just talk about. This is kind of our first real interview when you think
Yeah.
about it. And I mean, the premise of the podcast really is to talk about your faith journey,
Yep.
where you've come from, where you are now, maybe even insights to where you think you want to be going as far as like maybe vocations go. But that's like, that'll come later in the podcast.
Of course. Like it comes later in life, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, how old are you? You're
21.
21.
Yeah.
So a lot of you, I'm just 5 years your senior, but I guess Dan made that known. So we'll start off just like with your background. So like, it sounded like you moved around a lot.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about growing up and like what your faith background was like and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So I grew up in a culturally Catholic home. Like one of those homes where it's like Catholic with what's like a hyphen or
Okay.
yeah. There'd be all like the morals there, the strict morals, but then there'd be some of the hypocrism. A lot of hypocrisy. There'd be people would talk about going to church in their youth. People would just get confirmed, and then that was that.
Right.
It was almost like But yeah, and growing up in the Boston area, my family has strong roots in that area. Very Irish Catholic family. My great grandfather, he has like the Irish broad. He has thick Irish accent. He owned a meat store. But things just kind of like as the generations progressed, things kind of drifted away. In my current household, me and my mother are the only ones who have been baptized. As you said earlier, I was confirmed. She wasn't even confirmed yet. But
Oh wow.
But yeah, when I was born, I was baptized, and that was about it. We moved around a lot, as stated previously, and that was mainly for a lot of reasons. A lot of it was money issues, trying to stay with family members, where we could. Other parts was just, having to get out of areas for very specific reasons. But yeah. And with that, my faith was kind of lost in the process. I'm pretty sure, as I said in the talk I gave, God was like he was just like Santa Claus. The church, like, oh, look at that. That's the guy on the crucifix. I know that.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve, they ate an apple and got in trouble. That was it. Like that's all I knew about the faith. I knew some guys who wore robes were called priests, and if they were in a horror movie, it was gonna be kind of cool sometimes. But that's about it. So yeah, that's a bit of my background.
Yeah. And so on your talk, you talked about somehow ending up at this camp up in New Hampshire.
Maine. Yeah.
Oh, Maine. Okay, yeah, up north
It's,
somewhere. So, kind of, how did you end up there? I mean, it sounded like you moved around a lot.
Mm.
Were you still living in Boston at that time?
No, I was living here actually in New
Okay.
Bedford, and I ended up there because of the help of a family friend. Her name is Jeannie Bennett, and it was crazy. You know the Big Brother Big Sister program. So my mother got me and my little brother enrolled in that, and my little brother's big brother. Sorry, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
I know, had a wedding. It was a beautiful wedding. It was like the only wedding I've been to, but it was amazing. And we went there and we met my little brother's big brother's mother.
We need to bust out a family tree here.
Yeah. And she was like this crazy old lady walking around without her shoes, and she struck up a conversation with us because her son talked about us all the time. And she has a great heart. She took sympathy on our situation, and she was like, I want you guys to be able to experience life and nature and all the joys that life has to bring outside, because where I live, it's not the best place.
Concrete jungle.
Yeah. There's a lot of violence and drugs, and so she got us out of that environment, and she sent us to the camps that she went to as a child. She has I think she has like a lot of money in those camps too, like like she helps kids get to those camps all the time, and she became a very close family friend through this process.
Gotcha.
And there at that camp, it was a Christian camp called Christian Camps and Conferences. And I met some of like the most influential people I've ever met in my life. Like even if it was only for 2 weeks, we had great discussions about the Bible. And finally, I began to grasp like what faith is, what Christianity is. And there was just something like a few light bulbs switched in my head, like seeing these adults. I mean, they were adults to me then, but I'm the same age as them now. Believe in something so fervently, so passionately. And also during that same period of time, I had a friend from Alabama named John Hanby, and he's like probably the smartest guy I've ever met. And he introduced me to the concept of Christian apologetics, and my nerd brain just attached to that instantly and added a whole new vibrant flavor to the faith.
Yeah. And so that was just Christian apologetics, right? Is that what kind of led you to Catholicism?
Yes.
Or back to, I guess, because you were culturally Catholic. So is that what kind of led you back to Catholicism? And then I'm also wondering, at that time at the camp, because I mean, these Christian camps can be pretty intense, if you're a Christian, Protestant, or whatever, or non-denom. How did that like kind of play in your mind with like Catholicism being like your background?
So when I first realized that like Catholicism was like its own thing, because again, I barely had any idea about what the difference between a Muslim and a Christian was, let alone a Catholic and a Protestant. It was during one of the prayer services where I made the sign of the cross, and all the kids, they just like looked at me like, and I was like that's what I've done, and so that was like the start of realizing that there's something more to Catholicism.
That's awesome.
And it kind of like, I don't know, put me on the defensive a bit. I was like, I'm Catholic. Like, I guess I was just baptized. I had no idea what the catechism was, who the Pope was, but I was like, I'm Catholic. Yeah. So I'll stick by that for a bit. And what helped was my friend, John Hanby, who was also in a similar boat. He grew up in a very, I think I'm sorry, John, if he's listening to this, but I'm pretty sure it was like Baptist or something. And so, like he also didn't have like that background in Catholicism, but the apologetics, the reason why me and him are such great friends is because like we both like to seek the truth, like just, no matter where it takes us, even if it's scary. And so with apologetics, there was something, I think, when there's a point where we both realized we were missing something. And that was, a heavy theology,
right?
Like, because like how in order to defend something, you have to know what you're defending. And so we both began looking into theology a bit, and I was like, I'm Catholic. I should probably like look into that a bit. Like, I'm calling myself Catholic, but like I don't know what Catholicism is. And so I looked into it, and there I found, just like an utter majesty to it, like royalty to it. There was something ancient about it, something old, beautiful, like this, just this story of the saints stretching back 2,000 years. It was powerful. And at the Christian camp, likewise, because it was an annual thing where I'd go there. The more I went there, the more I began, debating about my Catholic heritage and my Catholic faith. The more, I like. It kind of helped, even though it wasn't a strictly Catholic camp. It wasn't a strictly Protestant camp either. I'm pretty sure there was a few Mormon kids. There's a little bit of everybody. Yeah, it was a nice
conference.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It was a little council, I guess. But there I'd go there because I didn't really have a lot of anchors at home, and being there, it helped me grow in my faith as well, like the Bible studies, talking with other people, like good role models. And for that, I'm thankful for both my friend John and this camp for like expanding my faith a bit, even if mountain biking was a bit intense.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think even though like you weren't getting the theological background from a Catholic view that you have now, I assume, they taught you about faith and like having faith. And I remember a couple weeks ago in our faith formation class, we had a lesson on faith. And one of the tenets of faith is truth. And so you being, a truth seeker, I don't think you're a liar.
Yeah, my name is even Michael. Sorry about that.
That you kind of recognized, okay, there's some truth to this. And like, that's where your faith came into it. But then obviously having that Catholic background, you're like, well, what is truth? What is the ultimate truth? And like, why are there multiple truths? And so tell me a little bit about how you, with your friend, maybe it was with your friend, but how did you end up at this camp? And like, I don't know if it was a short journey or a fast journey into RCIA.
Okay. So my friend John, our circle increased a bit, right? And through that circle, I met an Orthodox friend from Jordan. His name is Samuel, and he's if John's the smartest, Samuel might be one of the wisest. Sorry for anyone who else I've called wise, but Samuel probably has them beaten out. And we got to talking a bit. And the thing with me was that I wasn't humble. I don't think I wouldn't even call myself humble now, but I was I was prideful then. I'd say that. I was very boisterous, very loud. I'd say ignorant a lot of the times, arrogant, full of myself. And Samuel came into the picture, and we got on a call one day because we debated a lot of ideas, like a lot of secular ideas, a lot of not necessarily having to do with the faith. And I think he recognized like I was having a crisis in regards to my faith and my beliefs. And he kind of went and corrected that, and in a very polite way managed to body slam me and put me into check. And and I think one of the things that he said that was like really profound in our discussions was something along the lines of like the power of God, right? Because God was still a background figure in my life. He was secondary to everything else, and that's something I still have to kind of work on, but I had made God secondary. And of course I'd go to this camp and I have like a revitalization of my faith. Right. But like to have it be an annual thing was just really unhealthy. And so Sam kind of asked me a question, like a rhetorical question, right? Like it was like, what is more powerful in regards to the Christian God, right? To be able to defeat your enemies, right? Or to be able to like redeem them and make them better. And of course the story of St. Paul comes to mind, where he was literally he was killing Christians, and then he was checked by God on the road to Damascus, I believe, and was like, Paul, why do you prosecute me or persecute me? And it was just I don't know, that line in particular stuck out to me about like just how like powerful God is, so to speak, how real he is. And something with that line like clicked, like, okay, a God that powerful but that loving, maybe I should take it a bit more seriously. And so then at camp, it also coincided with my last year at camp, and I was in the like eldest boys cabin, and they have like a little thing where like if you're in the oldest cabin, you kind of have to look out, like you have to host events for the younger kids. Right. And in that, I had the privilege of helping the younger kids out with their faith. And I don't know, like that new outlook of taking God a whole lot more seriously, with just how powerful he is, just how real it is. kind of helped, I think, in that specific regards. And from there, I talked because I appreciated Samuel's wisdom. It was really strong stuff. So then we kept our discussions going, and eventually he led me to the church fathers. And as a history fanatic, I was like, wow, I had no idea that these guys were writing about this stuff in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th centuries.
Yeah.
And I looked into it, and one thing led to another, as I'm sure it has for many other people, very same story. And I was like, you know what? I think I've come to the conclusion that my Catholic faith, first of all, shouldn't be secondary, and second of all, is true. And for a long time, I was a little scared about going to the Catholic Church. I was like, what do I do? I don't even know where to start. I'd ask my mom for advice, and she'd say, you can go right in. I was like, oh, what do you mean I can just walk in? That's preposterous. Like, yeah, maybe a lot of it was like shaky feet, but like, thankfully, I had also brought another friend with me for this journey, a good friend named Benjamin. And he had attended UMass Dartmouth here, and he met someone else who goes to this club, Newman, and one thing led to another. And unironically, the guy who I led to the faith was the person who brought me to church for the first time. Of course, I mistook the deacon for a priest, but that was my first experience in a church, and it was just like something I felt like I needed to do with just the realness of God, and own up to the fact that God is real. And I need to take part in his church in the fullness of truth, the fullness of the faith. And so, then I joined RCIA and got confirmed pastor.
Yeah, I think like it's one thing to know the truth about the church. Like, okay, now God is important, but like then it's a whole nother thing to, and maybe that's where you are now. Like after RCIA, it's like, okay, but like what do I do with that now?
Yeah.
And everybody's faith journey is going to be different, but that can help you kind of get to the next level. And then something else, like going back to Mass for the first time, and you had said in the beginning, sometimes it's just like seen as kind of magical, and it's like, oh, what's going on here? Like, why is this guy wearing a hood? Like, why is he holding up this wafer? Like, why is everybody kneeling? Why are people bowing? And if you don't know, and I used to think of like, oh, like this is normal. Like people go to like, I used to think Mass was normal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's this is what I've always done. I've always just gone to Mass, and like this is what the priest does. But like, at one point I thought about like Harry Potter and how preposterous that sounds, and I'm like, what if this is what people think about Catholics? Like you walk in, he's wearing a robe.
Yeah.
He's making hand signals. There's definitely something magical happening at the consecration. And so kind of thinking about that has for me made a little bit of a difference, like in my own journey, just like realizing there is something special about being Catholic and being at Mass. And that's awesome that you guys led each other back to the church. Who was your sponsor? Was it? It
was Deacon Frank's wife.
Okay. Yeah. You had said that. That's cool. That's awesome that you guys all got to go through that journey together. How was RCIA?
So my RCIA was actually like really like it was shorter. Like I was confirmed in Easter. I think on my first retreat in February was it? The Jesus retreat. I think.
Yeah.
And I think I had started my RCIA a bit before that because I visited the church, and then after mistaking Deacon Frank for a priest, I embarrassingly went. I was like, I don't. And then I went home. I called Ben about the whole experience, and then I asked, what do you think I should do? And he was like, you should probably just email them. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can just email a deacon? Like what? So eventually I did email Deacon Frank and about my passion and enthusiasm to join the church. And in it I talked about why I thought like it wasn't a long email. It was maybe like 2 paragraphs, just like a letter format almost.
Yeah.
And in it I briefly brought up the Eucharist and like how real it seemed there. Like there's something to, like you were just bringing up, I was like there's something like crazy about it.
Yeah.
And Deacon Frank, he said, call me here, like when you get the time so we could talk about more. And I did. And, like he was like, like reading what you thought about the Eucharist, like, I think you should like get in as soon as we can get you in. You understand a lot about the faith already. Like you should probably like, get confirmed like this Easter. And it's like, so, it was a bit shorter. It was a bit rushed a bit. Not rushed. I don't want to say rushed because, they did a great job.
Yeah.
But yeah, and throughout that whole experience, I'd call Father Bill every now and then on Zoom meetings. We talk a bit, go through the book. I forget what it's called. This Is Our Faith, something like that. We'd go through it, the social teachings of the church, the Trinity, certain Greek terms I had no idea about. Like, yeah, it's like, what? This Greek? Whoa, okay, this is crazy. I love it. And it just kind of it was nice to be open, being welcomed in with open arms. Like, it was just like, because I'm a very anxious guy, and going in, it was like this is like just nice. Like, these are heartwarming people who like genuinely care. They really want you in the church, but like they want you to come in comfortably. They want you to come in on your own terms, and they want you to meet God essentially. And they really helped guide me through that, and like they helped me cross the bridge that was just waiting for everyone to that God's waiting for everyone to cross, so to speak.
Right.
And it was just a great and wholesome and heartwarming experience. And finally, when I got the Eucharist on that, when I was confirmed on Easter, I kind of had it in my hand for a second, and like to the point where Father David like looked over, like, you can do it now. Like, I was like, but like having the Eucharist in my hand, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually an oh my God, like, but it was just like such a powerful moment, and like the RCIA process itself was just like I don't know exactly what to say about it, but like it was just got me prepared for that very powerful and beautiful moment. And like honestly, like from when I got in, thinking I knew about the Eucharist to when I actually received the Eucharist, there was just another aspect to it that I just can't even like put my finger on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you had that experience, because I mean a lot of people don't, which is so sad about the faith.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of why you have so many cultural Catholics who do go to baptism, do go through First Communion, do go through reconciliation, do go through confirmation, and still don't have the experience you had, which is like God incarnate in your hand.
Yeah.
And again, like I'm talking about Harry Potter, it's magical. It doesn't really make sense, but at the same time, it's not really supposed to make sense. It's like why they call
it a mystery of the faith.
Mysteries of faith, which for some people, especially people who want to know the answer to things, that can be kind of frustrating. But again, if we knew all the answers, then kind of like a lot of other things, we would just get bored with it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's great to hear. So, I mean, talk a little bit now, like post-confirmation. It's been, I guess, almost 2 years, a year and a half.
Right.
What has it been like since your confirmation? I mean, you've gone probably a couple of retreats and...
Yeah. Well, to start off, to say that I've been a perfect Catholic would be a horrible, horrible lie, as I'm sure everyone knows.
Yeah.
Like, it's been tough, but like at the same time, it's like you have to persevere. Actually, a couple of Sundays after I was confirmed, I missed a mass. I felt horrible. Like I felt absolutely horrible. And then, I kept telling myself I'd go to confession. I'm going to go to confession. I never went to confession. And then I was just so horribly, wrecked in my guilt that I missed like 4 weeks of church. I was like, it was horrible. Again, like, and I know I'm not the only one. I know some people have missed church for like years. And, but then, I was like, finally, I don't recall exactly what it was. I was like, I just need to get to confession, right? Like, I just need to go and, because I do want to be in that state of communion with the church. And so, I went there thinking like Father Bill was going to like, oh, Michael, how dare you? But, I walked in there and it was just like, like how they say like the sacraments are like an invisible like grace, essentially. Mm-hmm. Like you could really feel that. Like I thought I was gonna get scolded. I thought I was gonna, but it was just like this really understanding moment, and it was a reconciliation. Even though I was just confirmed like a month prior. It was like it was like a really good moment. And that was one moment. But going to confession, then like I had my first confession prior to my confirmation, but this is my second one. And this second one, which it was like post confirmation, it's like I thought I should be living this like perfectly holy life, and it's like we should strive towards it, but of course you get humbled real quick. You're like, no, okay, I need to strive towards it, but I don't know how I could exactly do this. And I think our Danager Danny kind of brought up in between break St. Augustine's Confessions, right? And Augustine is like he's this great theologian. A lot of interesting stuff. But like he was, if you know his story, you know his story. He was a bit of a
Yeah, he was
wild.
he was
wild
going through
child.
some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he went through it. And a lot of saints I discovered have a very similar story. And that kind of helped a lot in realizing, first of all, like I should never cease in my march to become closer with God. But second of all, like I am fallible. I will make mistakes. But God is always there waiting for me in the form of reconciliation, in the form of the Eucharist, in the form of the church he gave us, the body of Christ. And that really helped me with my anxiety, with my worries about being like, this perfect student that came out of RCIA. This, like, okay, so like the church itself is built upon the point that, perfection doesn't necessarily exist in the average human being, and like recognizing that and working with it kind of, again, helped me persevere with, my faith life and eventually as there was a few other bumps in the road, home life issues, the church was always there for me to return to. It was always there, standing strong, like St. Mary's. I'll hop on a bus, maybe call an Uber or walk with a friend even, and we'll go to St. Mary's and either if we have to go to confession or if not, enjoy the mass and take part in the life of the church. And there's something beautiful about that has again helped me persevere. I've probably said that a lot by now, but I don't think I can emphasize that enough. Is that it was all about perseverance, even through my mistakes, and having the opportunity to go back and
Yeah, I mean, as we wrap up here, I think one of the things you mentioned, which I think is important to highlight, is like nobody is perfect, and even the saints, I'm sure after even though they were doing these crazy things for Christ in the Acts of the Apostles, I'm sure they were still going through their stuff, and just we should probably have you back on so we can talk about confession, because I feel like we could have a whole episode on confession.
I love that. Yeah,
maybe like one of those tangent videos Dan was talking about. Yeah, we can do it either way. But yeah, I mean, just thank you, Mike, for coming on, telling your story. I guess in just like the last few minutes here, what are you looking forward to in the future? Are you still struggling like with the post-confirmation things, or have you kind of like gotten into new depths? And I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can handle that in a couple minutes.
Okay, let's try.
Yeah. We have to head out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's so I don't think I'll ever stop struggling with post-confirmation things. It's a race, as the St. Paul says, it's a race to the end, and races are tough. I mean, I was in cross country my freshman year. We did a race in Martha's Vineyard. It was beautiful out, but even then I was just huffing and I was covered in sweat. I felt ugly. It was horrible. I thought I'd enjoy Martha's Vineyard more, but it's a race to the end, and so I don't think I'll ever stop struggling there. Things I'm looking forward to again are, like you mentioned, like there's new depths of the faith. Like when I first came on the first retreat with Newman, we were having a small talk, and we were talking about like what attracts you to Catholicism. I think it was after Caleb's speech and his reflection questions, and it kind of came to me, and I said, I was like, stepping into Catholicism, it was like you're stepping from like solid ground, and you just dive into this water that just has no end. And I think, I'm excited to explore, and I hope one day maybe I can go to a great depth. But even if I just stay where I'm at now, I think that'll be great. But even then, it's just there's something fulfilling about it. I don't know. There's something deep. For vocations, I'm not sure where that might take me. I got to pray on it. I want to get through college first before I make any big decisions.
That's good.
Yeah, Father Bill's probably watching this. Like, I know where he's going. But
Michael.
But yeah, just I'll see where my faith takes me. That's and great. Again, like I said before, I've probably said a lot of times, you should have a perseverance counter, maybe for how many times I've said persevere, but persevere to the end, and just stick by my faith. And I know my faith will always stick by me and stand by me. So
awesome, sweet. And I mean, I guess in the last few minutes, the last question I have is talking about all this perseverance. Is Mike, do you frog?
I think I do. Yeah, I frog.
He frogs. He's a frogger. All right, so let's just end in prayer. Oh, did we end in prayer last time?
You
Or did we
ended.
start? All right, so we'll end in prayer. So, in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Lord, for this conversation with Mike. Thank you for blessing this time together, getting to know him, getting to know how you've worked in his life and how you've led him exactly to where he needs to be, which is here at Newman House on a Friday. And I asked that you just continue to watch over Mike on his journey as a new convert, all the things that are, um, he's working through. Just ask that you give him so much grace to continue and further in his conversion and his faith and everything that ultimately will help him persevere. And so we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Mike.
Of course, thank you for having me on here.
Of course.